Hello everyone, I am Jessica Henry Gray and I am taking you with me today on a little trip to Ireland. This is some short little clips from when we were in Ireland just the last few weeks ago. And I am excited to share this video today with you. We are going to be painting in the Dunloe Gap right here. And it's a beautiful place near the Ring of Kerry, near Killarney. And my demo today is going to concentrate on color, mixing those greens, plus more. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy this one. Hello everybody, I am Jessica Henry Gray and welcome to my studio today. I am in Ireland. This is the beautiful Dunloe Gap and it's so gorgeous. This is County Kerry. Killarney is just right over there and we're making this gorgeous loop drive and I am going to paint that scene today. So be sure to follow this video, like and subscribe, and I always enjoy your comments. So be sure to check out the links below and I will see you on the other side of this intro. Hey everyone, Jessica Henry Gray here, and thanks for watching one of my videos. On my channel, I concentrate on the joy of outdoor plein air painting. I talk about color, composition, efficiency, and so much more. I bring you 30 years of painting and teaching experience. So I hope you enjoy these videos, and let's go paint something beautiful. All right, so we are going to jump right in. I have introduced a new color to my palette. I have added transparent red oxide to my lineup of colors. Now what I'm doing here is I'm toning the canvas with the phthalo green and the transparent red oxide. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I am going to be concentrating my efforts mostly on color in this video. That being said, the color that you get when you mix transparent red oxide and phthalo green is gorgeous. I am in love with this color combination. It makes this beautiful deep grass green. And so what I'm doing here is I'm toning the canvas with that, and then I'm going to wipe this off, as you know. But I put it on, you can't see it really from this perspective, but it's pretty thin. And so what my goal is with toning the canvas is to arrive at an under base there of a medium value range. You don't want to go too light and you don't want to go too dark. So I try to go with just a medium value there. Isn't that a beautiful green? It's almost jade. Anyway, so that is phthalo green and transparent red oxide. Transparent red oxide is very similar to burnt sienna, but burnt sienna is more opaque. Okay, so what I'm doing now is, I didn't have time to put in my thumbnail sketch, but I am going from that and I'm just sketching loosely into on my little canvas. This is an 8x10, by the way, the image that I see before me. And I sort of squashed it together just a little, but I wanted the basic shape that you can see of that V where the two mountains come together. So I didn't want them to be too equal on each side. So I moved obviously I moved it off center, and I wanted to create some of the really interesting land formations of that side that I'm working on in the picture. And by doing that, I knew I would have to concentrate my efforts on varying shades and values of greens. So I thought this would be a perfect video to really talk about some of those beautiful greens. I mean, I'm in Ireland where they invented green, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm starting out with, I just laid in the basic design of the hills as they come together. And I'm sort of jotting in some of the darker values where I will be putting those to help. Now that is not going to be my darkest value because it's too far away. But anything vertical in your painting is going to be a darker value than anything horizontal. The sky is your lightest light generally. So the ground is reflecting the sky. So it's going to be a lighter value than anything vertical like trees or mountains. Just having that in my subconscious or my conscious brain as I'm working, knowing that those mountains are going to be darker than the land. Having that plane division will help my painting to read accurately, as this is ground and this is part of the land that goes up. So as I'm working on this, my reference, as I looked up, had this neat little foot of land coming out into the lake. And I wanted to kind of move that in just a bit. Now, my perspective was a bit lower than what you see on the photo reference. So it was kind of further over like that from where I was sitting. So I try not to rearrange really iconic places too much because it's sort of like doing a portrait. Okay, so I'm taking white and ultramarine blue, and I'm getting, I had a little bit of the Killkee gel in there. This little palette contraption here is called Box and Paint. It's this really great little plastic palette box that fits all my colors. In the middle, I put a little bit of the Killkee gel because it just made it easier for transport. So anyway, I'm trying to work out the color that I see in the sky. And as the sky goes down toward the horizon, it gets warmer. And a little bit of that phthalo green, and I mean just a tiny dash, and then more white, will help warm up that blue. If you were to just add yellow, it would turn it green, of course. But by adding green, it doesn't, if that makes sense. That phthalo green has a bit of the yellow in it, but not very much. It's mostly a blue range phthalo green. So that helps to just warm the sky a little bit. And as you can see, I'm blocking in the color in nice, thick, juicy pieces of paint. When I'm out plein air painting, I tend to grab large piles of paint. I'm not really sure why, but I do. And I love the play of just scooping the paint up and moving it around on my canvas and figuring out where my colors and values and edges and so forth are. So as I'm working on now a little bit of white and blue and a little bit of burnt sienna into that, the mixture, just the sky mixture that I have, will make it a bit more gray. So that little bit of sienna into that makes it grayish. Sienna is part of the orange/red family. So when you have blue and you mix orange with it, it neutralizes it. It tones it down. So I had blue and I mixed a little sienna, and what I got is not just a neutral blue, but a gray. So that's a color I use all the time, that color combination of blue and brown, blue and burnt sienna, to create almost black all the way up to beautiful soft grays and variations within there. So working with this limited palette, it is unbelievable the number of colors and variations and richness you can get with just these few colors. Darkening it a bit more, I added a little more blue and brown as I'm working on these clouds. When you're working on something that is as fleeting as clouds, you have to just grab something that you like. It's kind of like painting a wave in motion. Squint down at the sky, find something that looks appealing. And I liked the way these clouds sort of streaked across the sky with a gray sort of underbelly. And then as the cloud curved and transitioned up toward the upper part of the sky, the gray began to get lighter and lighter. And I keep a couple of brushes in my hand so that I can switch them out and leave one of them for my clean whites. And that's what I've got, this green one right now, this green brush that I'm using for the bright whites. And I also will get another clean brush that doesn't have anything on it to soften the edges of some of the clouds so they don't look too heavy and clunky. Just, if I don't show the palette, it's because I'm picking up a color that I already have. So that is a lighter middle tone color. Now I'm adding using the white and adding smallest touch of the bright yellow, the cadmium yellow light, into that mixture to create that sunlit white. And I know the clouds would go over the sun and darken my canvas every now and then, so that is why the painting appears very dark at some times in this video. So I do apologize for that, but there are other times when it's lighter, and I hope that that helps. One thing I try to keep in mind when I'm painting clouds and skies, especially when I have a smaller canvas like this, so just a little 8x10, I don't want to make the sky too busy and I don't want to make it too bright. I will oftentimes tone down the brilliance of the blue if that's not what the painting is about. If the painting's about the sky, then make it about the sky. But if the painting is about the greens of the landscape or the water or whatever, I neutralize the sky just a bit so that it isn't screaming for attention. And so I kept some of the clouds a little quieter, and I softened some of the edges so that they weren't jumping out at you. Now I've added a little bit of blue and white to my mixture there, a little bit of the alizarin to kind of make it a bit more violet tone for the shadow. I'm always asking myself, what if? What if I add this color? What if I add that color? I mix a color that I think looks right. I lay it on the canvas. What if? What if this is the right color? I try it out. If it's not, it's very easy. I go back to the palette and keep mixing till I get a color that I'm satisfied with. But it's always that big question is, what if? You're never going to know until you try, right? So just jump off and give it a whirl. And if it's not right, you just either scrape it off or adjust it till it is. But I never use a palette knife for mixing unless it's a very large painting and I've got a big area, because I can get enough subtlety with my brush, and I prefer the tactile quality of using my brush as opposed to a palette knife. And also, I don't feel like I'm so committed when I've got a big pile of paint together that I've mixed with a palette knife. You feel like you're obligated to use it, where if you just did it with your brush, it's a smaller pile and you use what you can, and sometimes you come back to that color for a different passage in your painting. So anyway, I've got that little bit darker mixture that I made up of the greens with a little bit of the, as you saw, alizarin permanent and some white, just to sort of give this illusion of atmosphere. Adding a bit more of the cad yellow light, some of the blue sky mixture, which I knew I grabbed some white. So I'm mixing some of these lighter passages of green in the background. Now, everything that recedes is typically cooler. It's always cooler in the background because you have more sky in between you and it. So whatever it is you're painting back there has to be cooler. Little tiny touch of phthalo green into that. Now I'm going to do something I don't normally do here. I'm going to sort of digress and take you back to my studio. This is a palette from the other day working in the studio. It's from a painting I'm working on of a photo I took in Ireland, and I'll show you here in just a sec. I don't usually show paintings that I'm halfway through, but you can see all these different greens. And the reason I'm showing you this is because it illustrates a point that I'm trying to make about plein air painting. Now, why do we go plein air painting? Because we're practicing the light and the color of nature. So this is the finished painting, and I will get back to the rest of the painting, but you can see all the different shades of green that I captured in the painting. This is another one I did in Ireland where I was really studying the greens and the thick area of this landscape. And so this is back to my palette again. You can see that phthalo green with the burnt sienna mixture, a little bit more of the phthalo green with some cadmium yellows. And my point is that by plein air painting, you can go back and use those colors as reference in your studio for something else you're working on, so that you have that opportunity to get accurate colors, because we all know when you get your photos back home or you look at them on your phone, the colors are never exactly what they were in nature. So by being out there and observing from nature, you have a better arsenal in your mind and memory of how to get those accurate colors. So that's what I wanted to really kind of underscore here with showing you those paintings and my palette there. So, and that's all done with this limited palette. But I want to encourage you to put these colors out at home and just see how many different shades using just a few colors you can get of just green. Just do greens. So I added a little bit more white and yellow ochre, little yellow cad yellow to that as I'm bringing the greens down the hill. And sometimes I'll take mixture that I already have and I might modify those just a bit more. But as I'm going through this, I'm concentrating little cad yellow into there. As we get closer to the viewer, the greens warm up. So that's why I'm introducing some little warmer colors as we stair step towards us. Always using my brush strokes to indicate the form and the sort of the sculpt topography of the landscape. So if you see landscape sort of tucking under, I use the brush stroke to curve that way, or if it's sloping this way or that way. Just always be cognizant of what your brush strokes are doing to indicate the lay of the land. That is Killkee gel in that compartment, by the way. And sometimes I'll just thin the mixture a little bit, and the Killkee gel helps with that. Cad Yellow Medium, Phthalo Green. And I'm telling you, phthalo green, it is like the cayenne pepper of the kitchen. I will often use cooking metaphors in my instruction. And if you think of it as ingredients, and that phthalo green is like that cayenne pepper that will infect the entire pot of chili. Just a little bit goes a long way. So cadmium yellow medium into that. I've got sort of a hodgepodge mixture of different greens. And that is one way to build up efficiency in your plein air painting. I'm not saying to pre-mix all your colors. I'm saying as you go along, mix a nice big pile of paint and then go on to another color, whatever. But keep those piles. You can refer back to them for other passages of your painting. And by having all those different piles of greens, when you get to an area, you can look at it and say, you know what, I have that, or I could add a little more white to that color, or whatever, and modify it as you need to. But people say, how do you get so fast? Well, it's little things like that. Little mannerisms, little things you can do to be efficient in your time and your equipment. Now, I'm starting to work on the water, and so I did have a lot of these greens laying around. So I moved them off to the side. I didn't throw them out. I didn't wipe them off on my palette. I may grab them if I have an area where I need those colors. So a little white, little ultramarine blue, and this is a dagger brush. And I like this. It's not necessary, but I like that I can get a nice sharp point with it. I believe I had a little bit of the burnt sienna in that, like off to the side, or a part of an old puddle that was there. That is the alizarin permanent. I wanted just a bit more of a sort of a lavender color that is on the surface of the water. And again, I know it's hard to see on the canvas. As the wind would sort of ripple across the surface of the water, I tried to capture some of those moments where it was just had that beautiful lavender color. It wasn't all just blank white. So into that big puddle, as you saw, I added a bit more white to it. And now I'm starting to, again, cognizant of my brush strokes, horizontal strokes as I'm painting the water so that it has the appearance of a smooth surface, the light glistening across it. As I come down closer to us, my brush strokes are still horizontal, but I might, down in the corner, go with a little more vertical brush strokes, but I will glaze over the top of that with horizontal strokes to create the illusion of water surface. Just a little bit of the darker bluish violet color in there. Okay, so I'm taking some ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. A little bit more of the blue. More blue to the burnt sienna will give you an almost black color, but it's richer. It's a nice, rich color. I know a lot of people like to use black in their plein air landscapes because they mix yellow with it and get a beautiful green, but I find I'm not missing it. And I mean, if you like it, that's great, but for me, I really don't need it because the black I get with ultramarine blue and burnt sienna is so rich and beautiful. So I'm using that darker accent color now in there to get some of that shoreline accents, some of those shoreline accents. A little bit of white and some Killkee gel. I'm letting my brush sort of mix into some of that gray, so it's not pure white, but I want that image up close of those shines and surfaces. So ultramarine blue into that. That is yellow ochre. I love ultramarine blue and yellow ochre when I paint water. It just seems to have that quality that we see in water. And you have to add a little bit more of the blue into it. But in the passages where the water's closer to me, it's almost like root beer down there. It has this really beautiful burnt sienna browns and some of that yellow ochre, some cadmium yellows, in there, and so I wanted to capture those. I'll show you a reference picture here. See that down below in the water, how it just has that lovely deep sienna color, a bit of blue in there. But I will lay that brown color down and then into that add the shadow, the darker shadows of the rocks. And then above the rocks, I just do a light little of maybe some yellow ochre and a little bit of white, some of the burnt sienna. But that just creates the illusion of the top of a rock under the water. So now I'm loading up my brush with sort of a neutral taupe brown and bringing those two worlds together, the grayish surface and then the sienna depth and how they merge. I love that transition. So I'm starting to work on some of the up-close detailed information. And by that I just mean some of the rocks and things that I felt helped to draw the eye into the painting. So I'm only selecting those things in front of me, those rocks and elements in front of me that are going to help. And that's how you choose. You don't have to stand there and paint everything as you see it exactly, but use nature to help tell your story. So I wanted some of that beautiful green in front of me, that velvety deep green, and some of the rocks to indicate sort of I'm standing on a bank and there's a rocky shore and there's rocks under the water. Just a lighter value to the tops of the rocks. I don't want them to draw too much attention, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on them and get fussy with highlights and all that, because that's not what the painting is about. If I made that part of the painting really interesting and really detailed, as a viewer, we'd kind of get stuck right there, and I don't want that to happen. You want to bring the viewer into the painting, but then let them wander to the back. Always go and explore the rest of the painting. So I'm taking some of that lighter grayish that I had on my palette, and just using that dagger brush, kind of the point of it, I'm sort of cutting in some ripples on the surface of the water, just to indicate some movement. And I'll take some of that white, it's just pure white at this point now, and adding just some shimmers back there. This is what I mean in giving the viewer a reward. Give them a reason to go all the way to the back of the painting and spend some time. So I'm adding some nice contrast back there and some of the sparkles. All right, so now just kind of wrapping this up with the brush, and
include that.
You can sort of see what I'm working on there. I've got the palette knife now, and I wanted my shadows to be a little quieter. So instead of just smoothing them out with the brush, a palette knife is a beautiful way to unify some areas where you have it maybe too choppy. And I love the effect that you get when you gently, loosely drag a palette knife over a passage. But you have to be very careful and wipe your brush in between. All right, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this painting and my experience here in Ireland. It was so nice to bring you with. And I hope that you just really got something from this video. Be sure to check out the links below and like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I enjoyed having you with. All right, everybody, see you in the next video. Also, I've added a few clips at the end of this video of beautiful Ireland. I hope you enjoy them. All right, bye-bye. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me in Ireland. I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to check out the links below, and I will see you in the next video. All right, bye-bye. These are the cliffs of Killkee. Look at the color of this water.